All right, hey traders, in this video it's going to be a question answered to one of my members in my actual Facebook group, or in my group, and the question was, and it was actually answered to that, plus it's also going to help you understand how to draw trend lines. He said, hi John, really enjoyed watching your videos today. I do have a question in regards to the comment you made. And he says, it's in regards to trend lines. He says over here that what confirms the validity of a trend line, or confirms the change. Okay, so if you draw a trend line, what confirms it to be a confirmation trend line? Okay, and so what confirms that, but also what doesn't it confirm? Okay, so if you're drawing trend lines, how do you know it's a valid trend line? But then also, how do you know if that trend line is actually no longer valid? So let's actually get into it. All right, so let's actually get into it right now. Let me bring up one of my charts. Let me bring up a blank chart without any indicators on there so we can actually see what's going on here. I'm just going to use Apple for this example here for a minute. It's just the first stock I put up. I don't know what I'm going to see on this chart, but just raw, uncut, just see what I'm going to see on the charts here. Now, when I actually say, is a trend line valid or not? When I say that, the first thing I do see is that you want to be able to see, is the market respecting that trend line at the time? And so valid just simply means it's a trend line is, you just remember, you're always using a trend line because you want to see where the areas of support or resistance are in that stock. Make sense? So if you're doing that and it's in that stock, what is actually happening is that you're doing what is actually happening is that you are in a position where you are looking for that area to bounce. Remember, we're drawing a trend line, not what we think is happening, but we're trying to use that as what the market is actually telling us is happening. Make sense? So if I just look at this through here, and let me actually just squeeze this up a little bit through this area through here. I'm just going to pick this area through here, okay? If I'm just going to pick this area, let's actually just go over. I'm just trying to find one area that actually looks like it could be doing something through here. All right, cool. Let's actually do this. So for example, if I just drew a trend line from here and I drew it up through here, okay? Let's actually just draw this trend line through here. So right now, this trend line is valid, right? If I just, let me just zoom right in on this area through here. Bit more so we can really blow this up. So right now this trend line is valid, right? Because what is happening, we're actually started at the bottom through here. We're getting a bounce, okay? We're getting a bounce through here. We're getting bounces off through here, and we're getting a bounce through here. Make sense? So because it bounced through there, and bouncing, it's continuing higher, what is actually happening? Now what's happening is that this bouncing, ran up, came down, and bounced off it. Now it broke. Now, because it broke, there's two things that's happening here. One, it obviously broke, so now obviously the downward movement is likely to come. But also secondly, is that if the market no longer respects that, the market runs up and then just suddenly breaks through, then it's like the market's no longer respecting that area as support or resistance. Makes sense? So as long as the market's bouncing off its support or breaking through it and hitting it at resistance, it's now a valid trend line. Let's actually go through and let's actually look at what is actually happening up through here. So a great example is through here, right? Let me just bring this over through here. Okay, and if you're looking at trend lines, you start a point through here, and you can see, right, that if I draw this trend line up through here right now, and just draw it through there, you can actually see that this is a valid trend line, right? You have a bounce through there, it's bouncing, so it's valid, right? Not what we think, but it's valid because the market is actually bouncing off that level, right? And so if the market bounced, look at that through there. It came down, it bounced off there, it went straight through it through there, right? Went straight through there, it broke through. And as you can see, right, it broke through there, it rejected it through there. But if I move up through here, look what happened. Is this trend line valid anymore? It's not really, is it? Because look at it, it did bounce off support, but it broke through it and then broke back above it. And now, if you continue moving it forward, is this trend line valid anymore? Well, some would say yes and some would say no. I would say no, it's not valid anymore because we're getting too many movements between that. So we had a good bounce, a good bounce, a good bounce, a good bounce, a little resistance, and broke through here, and it broke through there, and then it broke through here, and then it broke through there. So it's no longer an area we can use to see potential support or resistance levels. Make sense? So that's the reason why, by losing that, that's the reason why we're looking at the validity of that trend line. And how you know it's valid is that, does the market actually bounce off it? If it doesn't, if we start to do this, right, and then we start to do this, and as you can see, it's gone through like that, then it's not really respecting it as a strong area of resistance. Remember, when we're drawing these trend lines, we want to have these on the chart, so we're identifying strong areas of support or resistance in the market. Make sense? And so therefore, guys, what I recommend, if you're trading a daily chart, you look at the next time up. So if you're trading a daily chart, go to the weekly chart, and you'll be able to see a lot more different trend lines here. So the first thing I would say is, looking at this thing through here, is as you can see right here, right, I've already got my trend lines on here, and you can see that this had this top of the trend line. We had this area through probably around about through there would be there. We had a bounce through there, It sort of hovered around there. We're actually getting to the top of this trend line through here right now. You know what I mean? So it hasn't actually told us that it's not respecting anymore. It just broke through it. If it hits the top of this trend line and bounces off, it's still valid. If it just goes straight through, then guess what? It's no longer valid, right? Because we're now not respecting this trend line through there. Hope that makes sense, guys. This is what I look at when I'm trying to draw my trend lines. Because remember, drawing trend lines is not just drawing trend lines. You are trying to find those areas of strong support or resistance levels. Strong support or resistance levels. Make sense? Not just on what you think it's doing, but you're trying to find those areas that are strong, and therefore I like to look at the next level up, which is the weekly chart. If you're trading an hourly chart, might look at the daily chart, and so on and so forth. Make sense? Look at the next time frame up. This is John Howell here from officialjohnhowell.com. Remember, success can be yours if you go claim it. So step up, take massive action, and face your fears today.